And then there's companies, some of the companies, as much as they get time, they get a chance to go and pitch, and would be great after each of the pitches if you can kind of live talking to the CEOs of those companies and provide your input. That would be great.
Absolutely. It will be a pleasure. It will be a pleasure. You let me know when we're ready.
Yeah, ready to go. We are ready, and we want, you can start if you want. Yeah.
Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. First of all, I'm excited to be here. As Amir mentioned, I also have the honor of being one of the early investors in PolyUp. And so when I heard that there is such a forum, I was elated that I was asked to come and give you guys a talk. So I thought we will make this thing fun a little bit. So I want to first tell you a story. Because I'd like to talk about what happens in our brains when we are giving a pitch to investors, to anyone, really. So the story is that I was in San Francisco and I met a homeless guy. You know, he had a little rabbit with himself. You see that in the bottom. Of course, I recreated this picture, but it's a true story. And, you know, like many people, it was holding up a sign saying, I am cold, I am hungry, I am out of luck, help me, please. And nobody was giving him money. So I sat next to him, I grabbed his magic marker and I flipped the thing over and I said, why don't you try this? And then he started getting money. And then every time I went there, basically he always had money. And so I want you to guess, what do you think I could have written there that changed everything for him? So what I did, I changed what he wrote. Instead of saying, I am this, I am that, help me, I said, what if your child was hungry? So the minute that happened, that simple change just kind of made people connect with him differently. So why do you think that is? And if you understand why that is, you're going to be very successful and you'll be ahead of many, many founders here in Silicon Valley, because a lot of them don't get it. And the answer to that is to really understand what happens in our brain. Okay? So in our brain, the red area is really what they call it, it's like a snake, like a reptile. This is when we were first created, all it knows is how to survive, okay? What am I gonna eat? Am I safe? So that's what's called in many areas, they call it the reptilian brain. In other words, it's a brain that belongs to like a snake or alligator, has no emotion. Then we evolved as human beings, and then we got the blue section, which is the emotional state. And this is where you start having emotions. And then eventually, for the modern man, we created the top portion of our brain, which is really where decision-making, behavior, came about. What's important about this is the fact that while the different portions of the brain make a decision, 85% of all the decisions we make instantly is within the first 3 seconds in the reptilian brain, at the core of it, okay? And so this is a very important fact when we go talk and we present. So how do we appeal to that red portion of the brain? Well, the red portion of the brain has several things. It's very simple. It doesn't understand ambiguity. So first of all, it's all about survival. So you should always try to appeal to the other side. It's not about, hey, look at my technology, look at my idea. It's all about what is it that you are missing? What is it that I can do for you? So the minute you put the question onto them or the emphasis onto the other side, whoever that other side is, all of a sudden they can begin to even listen to you. And these things happen very fast. The other thing is that it's very simple. It understands contrast, slow, fast, good, bad. it does not understand sort of cheap, somewhat better. So those are too gray. So you have to be very clear. And your stories need to have beginning and very clear ending. And the successful pitches are those that really tell a story instead of a bunch of slides, one after another. So try to make it a story. Also, it has to be something that it can quickly, the other brain can understand what's in it for me. So is it more cash? Is it less time? But to say things like, it's a flexible solution, it's not as much of a tangible, because then you have to explain why. And always, the brain really likes pictures. And the cliche that we say here that says a picture is worth 1,000 words could not be any more true in this particular area. And the other aspect of it is the emotional aspect of it, which if you clearly identify the pain points that somebody has and show how your solution is solving that, okay, that contrast of the emotions is really what we're after. So with these concepts of the brain and the fact that most investors, it's really that part of the brain that you're talking to with these ideas, now we can look at, how to do pitches. And there is two different types of pitches. The one, which I actually think is harder, is what's called an elevator pitch. Elevator in the buildings. So what is the point of a pitch? First of all, it is really not to get them to write you a check. Really, especially for the first pitch that you're going to give to someone, the goal is, is to be memorable for long enough so that they want to meet you again. It's always about getting the second meeting. It is not about right there, hey, do you give me money or not? If that happens, you're amazing, right? And good for you. But typically, we try to make sure that we get to the next meeting. So there's 3 important points. Just be interesting, very clear, and be very relevant, okay? And start with a strong opening sentence always, okay? So let's just put that a little bit to example. And I do have an example of Airbnb later on that I'll show you that I found their first pitch, which I think you would be interested in. So in an elevator, the idea is that if you're in an elevator, let's say with Bill Gates, and you want to be in the elevator for like 30 seconds with him, and a whole bunch of other people are rushing into getting into that elevator, what is the one sentence that's it's about 30 seconds or less that you're going to tell that person, to Bill Gates, that he's going to be interested in your story? Okay, so this looks simple, but it is the hardest thing you will do, because you are summarizing everything you're doing in a tight package that you memorize, right? So my company is developing something, right, to help someone to solve some problem, and this is why it's different. It's a secret sauce that I have that nobody else has. Being very specific about what that something is, or who you're talking to, who your audience is, who you're selling to, who your buyer is, and clarifying clearly the problem that you're solving in a way that only you know how. I would, if I may, give you that homework for you, each of you, to go back and for any ideas that you have, and I'll show you some examples, let's say with Airbnb, and try it, and you'll see that it is much, much harder than you think, because it's very easy to have long presentations, show lots of things, but it is extremely difficult to make them concise in the ways that we have talked about. So let's talk about it a little bit in terms of the pitch. So raising money from your point of view is, hey, we have a strategy, we're going to develop some product, and this thing is going to be amazing, and then that's it. As long as I show them that I'm doing really good, and scaling what I'm doing, I got to go and get the money. But from the from raising money from VC's point of view, they get thousands of business plans. They get 100 presentation out of that 1,000, 10% of them. 20 of them may go and they decide to dig in a little bit more. And at the end of the day, 2 of them get funded. So that's how competitive in general it is. And you should think about it that way. These numbers are guesstimates, rough, but that's what the statistics show. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is to show you that you need to stand out and you need to be clear and concise. And in terms of raising money in general, the hardest part is the work that you have to do before your pitch. To simplify the pitch, all the homework you need to do in terms of clarification of the problems you're solving, clarification on the solutions you're offering, who else is in this space that you're in, who are the competitors that are doing similar things to you, and so on and so forth. And that's what takes a long time. And then the pitch itself, you have to speak to many people, as you saw. If the ratios of getting actually asked to come back is low, that means you have to talk to many other people, right? And then eventually there is a process that people go down, look at your deal, look at your company, and then eventually there is a legal contract that comes in. So it's a long process and it starts before that. So why would a VC invest, right? If I were to summarize, I would say it comes down to 3 things. One is you, the quality of the team, if you will. Because products come and go, strategies change. A good team can be flexible to change with those things, right? So that's why they're investing in you. They're also investing on how big of a market it is for them, okay? And also how much traction you have already. Is it just an idea? Is it more than that? Do you have a prototype? And where you are. So why would a VC doesn't invest in you? Oh, I don't know what happened to my, okay. It's the same thing. If the team isn't good, if the market size isn't there, if the amount of traction isn't there, then they don't invest. But there are other reasons that they don't invest. And you control the ones I mentioned. There's a bunch of other things that you don't control. The deal may be complicated, and that's a terminology they use. They don't know where does this deal is going to go. Is someone going to buy you? Are you going to go IPO? It's not clear what's going to happen. There could be something related to them, that the money they have, they want to invest it in a different area than you, right? Who else is in this space, right? And even their own expertise. Not all investors know everything about every technology. So you have investors that are focused on different technologies. But the things you control is the quality of the team, is your story, is what you're going after, the size, and the traction. So what does that mean? What that means is that when I talk about the team, it's really you talking about your story. At the beginning of the presentations, somebody could say, hey, my name is X, Y, and Z. But if you do have a special story that connects you to your product or the reason why it came about, I think it's important to tell. I always tell the story of how I met my co-founder and also the name Bodo, where it came from. And it's a Persian word. It means to run, to accelerate. And they like that. They like that little bit of nuances to learn about you. Also, when we talk about the size of the market, it really means that there's 3 components to it. One, what is the problem you're solving? Okay, is this something you created with the hope that someone would like it? Or are you actually solving a particular problem? And what is your articulation of your solution? And part of the homework is to understand how big the size is. And when we talk about traction, it's really what's unique about the way you're solving it. And that's also very, very important for them. And what are the advantages and the differentiation with other solutions, and whether you have projections or not. So if I were to summarize kind of the 5 or 6 slides, if you only had 5 or 6 slides, this is what you would focus on. A clear problem, clear solution, how big the opportunity is, what's unique about you. And so if people use your solution, what's in it for them? What are they going to get? And do you have any projections to think how big your business is going to get? Okay. So this is what's called a baker's dozen. This is typically what a pitch slides are about. There's a title page, there's an introduction. Some people actually have an overview to kind of lay the groundwork, and then they get into the things I talked about. Okay, so there are some principles, which is few words, big fonts, less complexity, and lots of pictures. I tried in this presentation to at least uphold those principles. If you show complex diagrams like this, or if you say, look, this is a very important slide, and you write it like this, you're going to lose them. They're not going to listen to you. They're going to move on to another one of the 1,000 people that went to them. So it's very important, and for you to know that slides, reading is bad. They need to emotionally connect with you in that reptilian brain, and keep it short. Typically what I've been told we just went through talking to maybe 35 of the top VCs in the world, myself, for my company. And we ended up raising a lot of money for the company, thank goodness. But it was very clear that all they wanted was 10 minutes of presentation and 50 minutes of discussions. And so here I'm going on a limb and saying that 20 minutes, but you have to keep it short. And it's really about what you're saying and doing. It's not just about what you're saying, because people typically listen to only very few percentage of what you say, and they watch about 50% of what you do. So your body language, how you present yourself, and how confident you are is important. And the master of that, was obviously Steve Jobs with iPhone. It was all about him really talking, right? And the pictures it was all about his story and simple messages. Apple reinvents the phone. This is when they unveiled iPhone, period. So I don't know how much we're doing on time, Amirjan.
So I think we are past the 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna, if there was interest, to show you Airbnb, maybe a couple of slides to kind of, or you think we should do that later?
Yeah, I think they benefit Behzad a lot from your live feedback on their presentation.
Okay, let's do that then.
Yeah, and then if we can put the slides up for them in their community, that would be great. We really appreciate that.
Yes, I send one version of it to Zora. I don't have the one that.
No problem. We put that up for them to benefit.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good. I hope that was helpful. And time.
That was fantastic. That was great. Really appreciate it. So what we had an earlier discussion just before we started the meeting was for all the kids have done some pitching over the past few weeks to listen what you're saying, use that, and then now pitch, and then after each we'll have a short QA with you to give them feedback. How can they make that pitch that they just gave you better? Okay.
Sounds great.
Fantastic. So, and then just generally, one thing that say to put them at ease, right now what they're doing is more pitching to get interest. They're not at a stage of specifically to raise money, but that is the main point. If they get interested, then the money not naturally comes to raise it. Yeah, but that's their goal, is to get the interest, to get support, all sorts of support for the project they do.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So let's go start. Who is the first company, Stephanie, please?
So the first company we have is the Golden Ratio.
Hello, my name is Aliazi. I am from Oman, and I am the CEO of Golden Ratio. Our company is mostly interested on designing. So first of all, we have this idea, which is a hologram library. It's basically going to be the normal parts, but they are going to be in a hologram shape. And the next thing is, which is we are very excited about, is designing new characters for PolyUp. And we are starting to design them on Blender by collaborating with super capable team. I think they started already. And this is the 2D character shape, but we are putting them on Blender. And thank you all so much for listening. That's basically it.
Okay. So, Behzad, would you like to give some comments?
First of all, it's so impressive what you guys do, honestly. So congratulations. I think, so based on what I was talking about, it would be good. I think it would be more effective if upfront, you somehow put your idea in context for that audience, instead of, I have come up with this cool technology and see what it is. Maybe you want to say what were some other types of solutions? What is it that the way you're doing it is different? Is it because nobody else has thought about it first? Is it that it's better than the way it was before? Is it that this is a unique application to what you've learned to do? A little bit more upfront about what is it that you're presenting to the audience, I think would be even more helpful. I don't know, Amir, what do you think?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's very important. And, some of the products they're doing is about enabling others to be able to express and simulate their ideas better in PolyUp, like the example you saw. Some of the ideas they're working on is actually an actual product that they're simulating that can be done outside. So
that's actually
that
perfect.
Context is very important.
Yeah, that's actually, hey, I designed this so that it enables somebody else to do something. And the way I've done it, that I don't think I've seen anybody else to do it, is this way. And this is the technology we use to get there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Definitely. That's great. Very good. Eliazi, any questions?
No, thank you so much. But I was actually wondering, maybe I didn't give enough information to explain. I'm not sure about it.
Yeah, so it is more context. So you remember we talked about it. Every time that you pitch, you have to assume that the listener doesn't know anything about what you're doing, and provide it. From your point of view, because you pitch many times, it may seem some of the things is obvious, but for the listener is not. So you always need to bring the context. So when you talk about the libraries, for example, these are libraries for the parts in PolyUp that enables the more, people can create their ideas better because of this and that and that. That context would be very helpful.
Yeah, and I'm a good example because I'm not exposed to any of the stuff you've done before. So for me, everything you're saying is new. So I'm hanging on to every word you're saying and trying to learn. So let's say I was an investor, I would have many questions right now for you, as an example.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Brilliant idea. Great job.
Okay, who's next?
Next, we have the samurais. Please go ahead.
You are on mute. I think we don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No, now we hear you, Jagan. Go ahead.
Yes.
And Jagan, I suggest to put it on a presentation mode such that people can see better.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yes. Our team's name is Samurais. Our team is a place where creativity is boundless. Only the sky is the limit and ideas are brought to life. We have team members from India, Kenya, Azerbaijan, Oman, and Palestine. We also have achieved a lot of Polycoin revenue, as you can see here, and we have reached the highest number of machines authored. And now I'll give an introduction of our name. Why did we keep the name Samurais? We kept it as Samurais because we wanted a catchy name, and we wanted to tell that we have the courage to try out new ideas and innovate just like ninjas. And now I'll come on to our product. It's a carbon removal machine. So in this carbon removal machine, a solar powered drone plants bamboo for a biomass plant to generate electricity. Now this drone has a seed dispenser and a water dispenser to dispense seeds, and you can land it when it runs out of seeds. And then this drone is used to plant bamboo for a biomass plant. In the biomass plant, the upper stalks are cut and they are used as fuel. Since bamboo is a grass, you can cut the upper stalks and it won't die. And you can see here it's used as fuel to heat the water, which is converted to steam, and then it's converted to electricity using a turbine. And then it is sent to houses through a grid system. Now, if we have a business model in mind for this idea, it's in two phases. Phase one is to convert the coal plant into a biomass plant. Right now, there are many coal plants in the world, but we thought of converting them into a bamboo biomass plant. Both work the same way. So all we need to do is to change the combustion system and plant bamboo in the coal collection area, which will become more fertile. And then there's an alternate phase for areas where there isn't a biomass plant or any plant at all. So we can use the degraded land to grow bamboo. This can be used for bamboo. And then our another idea is that some power plant owners can optionally choose to give the bamboo to a furniture manufacturing store to make furniture. This furniture can be sold in a store for people to buy, as you can see in here. And then I'm going to show you the carbon impact of the machine and how it can reduce carbon dioxide. So you can see here, within 5 years and with 650 bamboo, we have reduced almost 40 tons of carbon dioxide, which is about the size of 7 elephants, about 5 elephants. And that is with less than an acre of bamboo, which is quite less. And that's it for our team.
Thank you. Behzad, go ahead, please.
I mean, it's just incredible. First of all, I don't feel like saying anything, just listening to you. So great job. I guess one thing for everyone is at the end, what is it that you're asking your audience? What do you want from them? And I forgot to mention that. So how would you end your presentation to, let's say, someone like me? What is it that you would want from me? Is it that you want me to support your project? Is it that you want me to, are you looking for money as an example for your company? What is it that you want from your audience? Actually, I'm actually asking you.
Yeah, Behzad, that's actually great idea. So what we should do, and we haven't done that very explicitly, and this is great idea. So what we should do is, each time that we have a speaker or a guest that comes in, we should have before that thinking, brainstorming about what they can provide to help them. And then they can ask that during the presentation, finish it by that. That's actually great point. I mean, example of that is last week, the CEO of X Prize was here. And the ask was, can we submit our proposals for the carbon removal, which they asked. But that can be part of the official presentation. Or before that, the head of the global Silicon Valley Bank Capital was here, and then their ask was, can we pitch actually our ideas to some of the potential investors to get the help in different ways. And the point you're making is actually very helpful. I think we should think of this from next time. Jogan, what do you think? Do you think does it make sense?
Yes, yeah, we'll work on that.
Fantastic.
Oh, awesome. Great job. Great ideas. I love the explanation. Thank
Jogan,
you.
any
Thanks.
questions you have?
No questions.
Fantastic presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I had a question. Does
Sure, go ahead.
my pitch feel a bit too long, or does it feel concise?
I would say I don't necessarily think it was too long. I think that when you brought and you said we have another idea, just my advice will be to stick to one point and focus on it. I got lost a little bit when you said we're also using it for furniture. So it was multiple ideas, at least the way I looked at it. But I don't think it was too long. I think I liked the way you started to, again, you actually talked a little bit about what's unique about your name, a story. You told a story up front about your name and, you know, the courage to be samurai and all of that. So I loved that part of it in terms of how you started it. I think a little bit more of the ending of where, what is it that you're asking your audience? Be very explicit. Would be good, but I don't think it was too long.
Fantastic. And you know what Behzad said, you know, when you had the two pieces in the business model, if you feel both are needed because some areas don't have the plans to transform, then don't say one another idea. To start with, say there are two paths for the business plan. For areas that they have this, we do this. For the other areas, for all areas, this is available. Then it doesn't look like you are having an afterthought, or another one looks more like a cohesive business model you have.
Yes.
That's very, very good input.
Okay,
Fantastic.
we will work on that.
Thank you so much. Great job.
Fantastic, Jogan. That was great.
Thanks.
By the way, Jogan, you didn't mention that you are what, 7th grader? Is that correct? From
Yes,
India.
I'm a
You
7th
mention
grader.
that always when you start. Okay.
Okay,
Fantastic.
Okay.
Next.
Next,
thanks.
we have the super capable team.
Hello, I'm the super capable team CEO. I'm from the US and I'm going to 7th grade. We have members from Azerbaijan, Rwanda, and the US. So we have an idea for carbon removal, and it is to use zinc ions, which in a correct way to attract carbon, and then we would turn it into polyethylene. So the first thing we need to know to understand this idea is what polyethylene is. So polyethylene is a polymer composed of organic units joined by carbamate links. It can be used for clothing, domestic appliances, and much more. So here's a diagram of how polyethylene is made, and its components are di and triisocyanates, polyols, and additives. So there will be a carbon-based polyol used instead of oil, and that's how we will use the carbon to make the polyethylene. And this is the diagram of how it's made. So the components of the polyethylene are stored in a stainless steel tank. It's taken through a heat exchanger, and then it would be taken through the rest of the diagram and the process of turning into polyethylene. So here are some references of where we got the information. And we also made a machine about this and in PolyUp, and here it is. We just run it. So the red spheres are zinc ions and they drag carbon towards them. Then the carbon is dumped onto the place where it is turned into polyethylene. And this is just an example of it. The reason we couldn't put technology in PolyUp is there's not enough technological parts in PolyUp to make it. And to do that, we would have to spend a lot of time to put random pieces together to create something that looked like it. So we decided to simply just make a diagram of it, as you can see in the presentation we showed you earlier. Thank you for listening. That is our idea.
Great, thank you. Behzad, go ahead, please.
Thank you. You know, it felt to me, by the way, also amazing job. Thank you, Abba. It felt to me, I wanted to hear more. It just felt kind of, it ended in an abrupt way. it felt like I was being educated about a technology versus how is your idea compared to other ideas? Did you guys look at many other things and you chose this way because it's the most effective way? Or what is it about the technology, other than the fact that it sounded like a cool technology with a lot of great words, impressive words? What is it about the tech? What is it about your idea that's different from others? And also I would ask the same thing, which is, what is it that you want your audience to take away from your presentation? So I felt like it kind of ended a little too soon. I wanted to hear more about how the idea compares to what's out there, and why this one is the way to go. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know, I mean, what you thought.
Yeah, we'll be sure to do that in the next presentation. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, you see, this goes back again to context. So Behzad, since they're pitching this in weekly basis, they feel that they have talked about it before.
I know.
They summarize. So this is one of the most important things an entrepreneur should learn, is nobody cares that how many times you said your story. They're the first time they're hearing it.
Absolutely.
So you have to give the context. So the context here is about carbon removal, and you want to have it at scale. What are the issues with the other ways, and what do you solve it this way? That piece is a critical piece to add. That makes it much more powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I had to go literally, we were counting 82 times. I made a presentation to raise our money in total. And every time I have to have the same enthusiasm. You're on mute, I think.
Sure.
So every time you have to be from the beginning with the same enthusiasm for your audience. But I totally understand it. I'm just giving feedback.
Yeah, no, that's very good. I mean, it's very good too that you're saying this, because it makes them alert and makes them conscious that you don't know that background, and they need to say. But that was great, Awa. That's great. Thank you. So let's go to the next. Who do we have, Stephanie?
Next, we have the STEM Velocity Hub.
So hello guys, I'm sorry for taking a little bit of time, but welcome to my machine. This machine was created by all of us from STEM Velocity. In this STEM Velocity Hub, we have members from Rwanda, Azerbaijan, and India, and Madagascar. STEM Velocity Hub is a group of people who use creativity to create things that weren't thought of by others. And so this is what we created, a carbon removal tech or technology, you may call it. So I'll start the machine. So first you can see like the air particles of the carbon. Carbon is the red, which comes from this factory. Then when it enters here, these purple fans will indicate that the air is being taken into the system by these fans. So when it enters through this, it enters this absorption bed where there are electrodes which take into the carbon and then send it back to this other bed, where now the red part only shows the carbon. Then after the purification process is almost done, it goes through this other outlet into this part, outer part, where the carbon is released out to the trees, and where trees can utilize that carbon dioxide. You see, I've named the outlet part. So next, I'll go to the impact machine, the solution part. So with the help of Oria's example, I actually created something out of it, and you can see it's almost the same, but with some different perspectives and other methods of using it. And so we can see that in this one unit, it's like approximately 4.8 tons used by the factory, which it releases into this atmosphere. And so this meter can now count how much. So when we reduce it, it goes down, and when it goes down, it means that it's now becoming more purified. And also in this part for the car, it's the same way. When I reduce it, it becomes like negative here. You can see it becomes negative. And now the trees now will use that carbon and increase the number of carbon in the air. So thanks all for listening, and please, if you have any feedback, please you can give me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Behzad, please go ahead.
Yeah, also great design. I felt that the explanation probably was a little too long in terms of the specifics of the design. I would have liked to hear a little bit more about how is this, is it the fact that it just accomplishes what you set out to do, or is it that it does it in a way that others don't? Is it that you're doing it, it was not even possible to do such a thing, or is it that you're doing it in a cheaper way, in a more streamlined way, in a however less time-consuming way, or whatnot? So I would have liked to hear a little bit about how it compares versus the entire time being about how it works, the design works.
Jamar, can you turn on your video such that we see you when you talk? That would be great. If you want to. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Jamar.
So the process in which that carbon is purified is the way that in that absorption bed are there electrodes which are activated, in which the carbon is now captured in that absorption bed I shown to you. Then when it goes to the next phase, it becomes more purified, then goes to be released out to the trees. So showing that impact solution, it means that it becomes reduced in the air compared to the other machines, and showing that it can be more effective to be used in large scale factories out in the world can use this solution to use in their factories to reduce the rate of carbon produced in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So again, in real life, if you are like in competition with many other players in real life, you want to end it with, these are the things, like you said it, these are the goodnesses of this approach that nobody else has, and you need to be confident about kind of leaving that impression with your audience as to why your solution is the best. That you should spend probably a little bit more time on, but it was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. And Jean-Marc and all the kids, one of the questions Behzad they have asked us many times is, like, for example, they are competing right now for the carbon removal. They want to submit the Elon Musk prize at the end of the summer. So that's the reason a lot of the solutions is about that. And one of the questions that they have had is, do they need to come up with some solution that nobody else thought about? And we discussed along about this, that is not about one solution or technology which is new to make something practical and at scale. Many of the large companies, they didn't come up with a new method. They find a way to synthesize two or three different things together, how to make it practical and make it happen. So if you can explain a little more about this, Behzad, that's very helpful.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you for the context. I didn't have a lot of the context in terms of what
Sure.
these presentations are. I would have been a little bit more prepared. But I think, you know, absolutely. It's never about, in my view, about yet another complicated system that costs a lot of money to come into the market. It's about, you know, some say the word genius means how to get a complex problem simple. So it's all about simplicity, making it actually cost effective to develop it, and making it actually better. And as you know, Amir pointed out, it's very important for these ideas, for them to get adopted, for people to think, especially for VCs, that you can do it at scale. In other words, if it takes so much money and effort to just build one of those systems, well, how are you going to do it at scale? Is it going to take a lot of money? So definitely it's those kinds of things, not necessarily the new gadget necessarily. It's about how to make the existing gadgets even better.
Yeah,
well.
fantastic. And you know, we gave them one example, Behzad, like for example, in the case of Google, when it started, the algorithm they used was from 25 years ago, is from 1970s. It wasn't about coming up with new algorithm, it was about using something which was set in something complete different area. For librarians, there was a algorithm. They took that and they used it for internet, which was their innovation. It wasn't about coming with new technology, it was using something which was very simple, but not used the way that they did.
That's exactly actually my company we did. We used the same technology that only few people could access in supercomputers, and we made it available for everybody. And it's so that's what we did. That's what we're doing. So point well taken. Absolutely.
Okay. Fantastic. So this puts you at ease, is more to think about how to synthesize the methods together, that method you feel you have a strong reasons that it can scale, it can have overall carbon negative impact, and it's something that, you know, financially based on the cost of it can scale. So those are the important parts. Fantastic.
But everyone should be very proud of you know, everything you have done. This is incredible. So congratulations to all of you.
Fantastic. Really, you know, love it, Behzad. Sorry, we are 7 minutes past the hour. There are more companies want to talk, but I think they got the good idea, good understanding of how they do it. Really appreciate it. That was very helpful. And if we share the slides that you provide, those, especially like that sentence you had, which summarizes a company, what's the name, for whom, what, and why. Those kind of exercises is extremely valuable. We really appreciate your time and your support for the whole PolyUp.
It was a pleasure. I'll have those slides for you guys. Keep it up. I hope I come back again.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Guys.
Have a great day. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day. So everybody here,